this thing? Gallbladder. Okay. Now, what's the thing that runs between the two lobes? Remember? That's the falciform ligament. Again, it helps hold. It basically helps hold the liver in place. It attaches to the abdominal wall. It attaches to the duodenum. So it's what, I mean, the liver is heavy. It's what keeps the liver in the right upper quadrant. Okay. What lobe is this over here? That's the left lobe. The bigger one is the right lobe. If you flip on the underside, you can see some important things. Let me go in closer to those so that you don't get too confused. Here's your bile ducts. Okay? This one is going towards the left lobe. That would be the left hepatic duct. This one that's going towards the right lobe would be the right hepatic duct. As soon as they come together, this is not the greatest model for it. Some of them show it a little bit better. But as soon as they come together, it's referred to as the common hepatic duct. The common hepatic duct then hooks up the cystic duct that's coming from the gallbladder. And when those two guys come together, you then get this, which is the common bile duct, which is the guy that went down the backside of the pancreas and meets up with the pancreatic duct. Small intestine, what can I say about it? I showed you the duodenum on the other slide. You know, like on this model, on this model, this is the duodenum. The duodenum goes up and around, and then there's actually a ligament that holds it in place called the ligament of Treitz. After the ligament of Treitz, as soon as the intestine starts going down again, that's the beginning of the jejunum. All right, so this would actually be jejunum right here. Everything else is duodenum. So that's where the jejunum starts. Then you have the jejunum, and then the last part is you have the ileum. All right, I'm not going to pull out some middle piece or some random piece of the intestine and say what part is this. If I ask you about the duodenum, it's going to be around here, and you should be able to identify it as duodenum. For jejunum, I mean, I'd probably have to point like maybe right there, but I'm not going to pull out some piece in the middle and say, is that jejunum or ileum? On the other hand, if I ask you about ileum, I would do it someplace close to where the large intestine begins, you know, something to give you your bearings. Because if I pull out a random piece of small intestine, you're not really going to be able to tell what it is, probably. You're not going to know if it's jejunum versus ileum. All right. Layers of the intestinal wall. This crazy model here. It's a pretty big model. You know what? Let me do what that one student suggested that one time and do this. All right. Go like that. Okay. All right. So this is a model of the small intestine. Okay. Each one of these little things is a villi. Okay. If you looked on the cells that are part of it, that's where you would see the little tiny microvilli. Everything from here up is mucosa, all right? And the mucosa has three parts to it. The epithelial layer, which is a simple columnar epithelium with goblet cells and microvilli. The lamina propria, which is basically all the white area that's on the inside. And then the muscularis mucosae, which is a very thin layer of muscle that's running right there. So that's all mucosa. When you get into this area, that's the submucosa. Okay? These things in red and blue are supposed to represent, I think, arteries and veins, but you're also probably going to find lots of glands in the submucosa, especially if you're in the duodenum. This layer here and here represents the muscularis layer. The first one, the inner one, is the circular layer of muscle. The outer one is the longitudinal layer. And then down here where you see a little bit of fat, that's going to be the serosa that's down there. Okay? So those are the main things to see up there. Oh, one other thing that I'll mention is as the villi work their way down, this little portion that's diving down here, it has a special name to it. It's called the intestinal crypts, or sometimes they call it the crypts of Lieberkühn. Right? I promise it's not like some level in World of Warcraft. It's actually called the crypts of Lieberkühn. No idea who Lieberkühn was. All right. Anyway, that's what's going on there. Let me move on to large intestine model, if I can find it. Large intestine model is kind of in pieces, so I'm going to have to hold it together, but I'm up for the challenge. Maybe not. Okay. All right, so okay, so this thing kind of in dark gray here is the large intestine. It's really easy to tell the large intestine from the small intestine because there's these little bulges that are called haustra. Okay, I'll talk more about the haustra on Tuesday next week, but you see that on the large intestine, you don't see it on the small intestine. Okay? As I mentioned, down here in the right lower quadrant would be where the small intestine connects with the large intestine. Okay, so the last part of the ileum attaches to the first part of the large intestine down there. And there's actually, I think it's shown here, it's a little tricky to see, but there's actually a little connecting spot right there where that hole is, and that's called the ileocecal valve. So it's what allows contents from the small intestine to pass into the large intestine, and it's got muscle in its layer, just like some of these sphincters do. Okay. If you look on the back, in this first area of the large intestine is fairly big, and it has a special name to it. It's called the cecum. If you look, I don't know, I didn't check this model beforehand. Hopefully I'm lucky. Oh, great, I'm super lucky. Wow. Attached to the cecum is where you have this guy coming off. Anyone know what that is? Yeah, that's your appendix. Okay, so that's your appendix. It comes off of the cecum. I'll talk more about it on Tuesday. So the first part is the cecum. Then you get into the colon. This part that's going up is the ascending colon. It then bends at a place called the hepatic flexure. Why do you suppose it's called the hepatic flexure? Because it sits close to where the liver is, right? They sometimes also call it the right colic flexure. Either name's fine. So it turns. Then you have your transverse colon. Okay? And then over here you have another bend. This is called, sorry, my pieces are falling. The other bend is known as the splenic flexure because it sits close to the spleen, or sometimes they call it the left colic flexure. Then you get into the descending colon. Hopefully it's shown here. Then you have a little wiggly part called the sigmoid colon, and then the last part is called the rectum, and then you have like the anus. Okay? You'll see this model doesn't really show the rectum or the anus too well, but you'll get the chance to see it on Tuesday. The other thing to notice on the large intestine are these stripes that you see. The stripes are called the tinea coli. The tinea coli actually represent the longitudinal muscle layer for the large intestine. In all other areas of the digestive tract, the longitudinal muscle layer is one complete muscle. But in the large intestine, it's organized, it's not a complete layer, it's organized into little strips known as tinea coli. So that's another dead giveaway that you're looking at, say, the large intestine versus some other part.